Hey, good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. I'm Vicki Wynn in for Savannah Sellers. Right now on Morning News Now, mixed emotions about the legacy of former football star O.J. Simpson following his death from cancer. Simpson was famously acquitted in 1995 of murdering his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman in the so-called trial of the century, with the landmark case broadcast across the world.
He's going to be remembered as a person who, by many people, who was guilty but got away with it, and by other people who think that there was a police conspiracy and it was appropriate that he was acquitted.
We'll take a look at the life of such a divisive figure and the impact he had on pop culture. Also this morning, the United States is restricting travel for embassy staff in Israel amid heightened tensions with Iran after the country threatened to retaliate for an alleged Israeli strike on its consulate in Syria. All that as the humanitarian situation in Gaza reaches a breaking point, with the head of U.S. aid warning famine has now started in the Palestinian enclave. The former interpreter for baseball star Shohei Ohtani charged with bank fraud after he was accused of stealing more than $16 million from the L.A. Dodgers player. Details of the case that is rocking the sports world. Plus, the movies and shows you should be watching this weekend, including a heartwarming Dutch film about the struggles of raising a family. And Michael Douglas, like you have never seen him before, taking on the role of Benjamin Franklin in a historical drama on Apple TV. All that plus more on our Can't Miss list. We begin this hour with a look back at the life and notoriety of O.J. Simpson, the one-time NFL superstar accused of murdering his ex-wife and her friend. Simpson was later acquitted in a televised trial nearly 30 years ago that gripped the nation. Simpson's family announced yesterday that he died of cancer and that he was surrounded by his children and grandchildren in his final moments. Simpson was 76. NBC News Now anchor Kate Snow joins us now with a look back at his complicated life. And Kate, how people are reacting, frankly, to his death.
Yeah, that's right, Vicki. O.J. Simpson was so many things, right? First, he was famous. Then he was infamous. He was a transcendent athlete on the football field, then a beloved personality in TV, films, and commercials. But then, as you've said, there was that stain of a double murder that would follow him until his death.
The news of O.J. Simpson's death brought a wide spectrum of reaction, as mixed and controversial as his life.
Is this your verdict?
Ron Goldman was murdered alongside Simpson's ex-wife Nicole Brown back in 1994. From Ron's sister Kim and father Fred, this statement: "The news of Ron's killer passing away is a mixed bag of complicated emotions. For 3 decades, we tirelessly pursued justice for Ron and Nicole, and despite a civil judgment, the hope for true accountability has ended." From Kate O'Kalin, O.J.'s famous house guest at the time of the murders.
To Fred and to Kim, I hope you find closure. And finally, to the family of the beautiful Nicole Brown Simpson, may we always cherish her memories.
Marcia Clark, the lead prosecutor in Simpson's murder trial, telling us simply, "I send my condolences to Mr. Simpson's family." Carl Douglas was one of Simpson's criminal defense attorneys.
Certainly the early part of his career is marked by great milestones, and regrettably, his legacy devolved in his later years.
Look at that cut, O.J. Simpson.
As a young athlete, O.J. Simpson was a once-in-a-generation talent, winning the Heisman Trophy at USC.
That does it. He broke the record.
Before becoming the first running back in NFL history to join the mythical 2,000-yard club in just 14 games for the Buffalo Bills. He was later inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, his charisma making him a beloved TV personality, first in commercials and later on the big screen.
One of the greatest athletes we've ever seen. All of that tainted forever and smeared by charges of being a double murderer.
Once revered, then reviled. That image of the white Broncos slowly traversing the 405 in Los Angeles is something anyone alive at the time will never forget.
And we are told by the California Highway Patrol that O.J. Simpson is in that car holding a gun to his head.
His criminal case, known as the trial of the century.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
lasted 11 months and for many was must-see TV. The murders also revealing allegations that Simpson had abused Brown. According to the AP, Brown wrote a letter alleging Simpson, quote, beat the holy hell out of her. 911 calls also emerging during the trial. Simpson pleaded no contest to spousal abuse charges in 1989, but has since denied the abuse. When Simpson was acquitted,
not guilty of the crime of murder,
the verdict exposed the racial divide in this country. But the Goldman and Brown families filed a civil suit in 1997 and won. Simpson was ordered to pay them $33.5 million, but only paid a fraction. In 2008, a Las Vegas jury found him guilty of armed robbery and kidnapping. Simpson claiming he was simply trying to recover stolen sports memorabilia. He served 9 years in prison before his release in 2017. After that, Simpson kept a low profile. Reports circulated in February that Simpson had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. In a video posted on X, he denied he'd been in hospice care.
Hospice? Hospice? You talking about hospice?
As recently as February, continuing to insist his health was good. Thursday, his family announcing he succumbed to his battle with cancer.
In their statement, Simpson's family asked people to respect their wishes for privacy and grace. O.J. himself never mentioned that he was battling cancer. And Vicki, a family attorney for the Goldmans, we mentioned that civil suit and that settlement or that money that they were owed. Right. They say now that it has ballooned to $100 million because of interest. And they say that O.J. Simpson died, quote, without penance.
Kate Snow, thank you for that look back. It really brings us right back to where we were when this all happened. For more this morning, we are joined by Pat Morrison. She's a writer and columnist at the LA Times. She was working there at the time of the murders as well and throughout that trial. Pat, thanks so much for being here with us this morning. So here we are, just 2 months shy of the 30th anniversary of the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. You were actually across the street from the murder scene in Brentwood the night they were killed. What do you remember about that night and the days that followed?
Well, by happenstance, I was at an event across the street, at a house across the street, an ACLU event a few hours before the murder. And then later that evening, I was at a charity dinner where the district attorney of Los Angeles was present as well. And we all awoke the next morning to the news of the slaughter of these two young people and the additional news that the primary suspect would turn out to be O.J. Simpson, a man who ever after lived a split-screen life.
Trial, Pat, it seemed like everyone who was involved in this case, from Judge Ito to Marcia Clark, the lead prosecutor, everyone became a household name. What do you think it was about this case and the way that it unfolded that really captivated not just America, but really the world?
It carried every single element of everything that we deal with in this country, that we revere like celebrity, that we talk about like crime, race, domestic violence, which has kind of been swept under the rug a little bit. O.J. Simpson had a great relationship with the cops. He did fundraisers for them. They swam in his pool, and that's why his late wife thought that her pleas for help were ignored. So to put this all in a single courtroom, on television, wall to wall, every day, how could you not look away? How could this not be America under a microscope?
Yeah, from the Bronco chase to the last gavel when the verdict was read. Well, this trial playing out in Southern California just 3 years, by the way, after the L.A. riots. And to remind our viewers, those riots were sparked by the acquittal of 4 police officers who were on trial for the beating of Rodney King. All of it was captured on video, and they still were acquitted. So with the Simpson trial, once again, the country was divided along racial lines. What did that signify to you about the way the public processed that verdict?
In Los Angeles, there was a sense that the verdict, apart from the question of the evidence, was payback, that the mighty Los Angeles Police Department, whose officers had been acquitted of the beating of Rodney King, was finally getting humbled in this courtroom and getting the justice that it deserved after how it had been policing the Black community for decades. And so all of this passion that broke during the trial and then with the verdict ended up, of course, over the years, changing Los Angeles, changing the police department as well.
And changing the way we cover court cases. O.J. Simpson, as we saw in Kate's piece just now, Pat, he was one of the most popular personalities of his time, from his career at USC, an incredible standout football star, goes on to the NFL, then has this successful career in television, movies. He is eventually acquitted of these murder charges, but Simpson never really returned to the public eye in a positive way. So here we are at the end of 76 years. Pat, what do you think the legacy of O.J. Simpson is?
I think O.J.'s legacy concerns were always that the murder charges, even with the acquittal, would be at the top of his obituary. And that's why I say it was a split-screen life, because he had this glamorous, successful, extraordinary achievement, which came crashing down. And after the acquittal, in spite of it, he was never welcomed back into the circles that he had lived in before. He was a pariah. He had a huge judgment hanging over his head from the civil case. And so O.J. 2.0 was a very different man from the original O.J. And I think the country watched him as almost a Greek tragedy to see what had happened in consequence.
Yeah, revered, then reviled. Pat Morrison, thank you so much for your time and perspective this morning. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Now to the fallout surrounding the Arizona Supreme Court's near-total abortion ban. Vice President Kamala Harris is scheduled to hold an event focused on reproductive treatment in Tucson later today, while President Biden's campaign ramps up its campaign blitz, zeroing in on former President Trump's record on abortion. NBC News Now anchor Hallie Jackson has the very latest.
A new aggressive push from the president.
If Donald Trump gets back in power, what freedom will you lose next?
A new ad blitz pinning the blame on his predecessor for Arizona's controversial abortion ban.
Your body and your decisions belong to you, not the government, not Donald Trump. I will fight like hell to get your freedom back.
On the Arizona ruling that reinstates an 1864 law banning nearly all abortions, with the exception of those to save the mother's life, the Biden campaign's looking to put Republicans on defense, as Mr. Trump acknowledges Democrats have the political advantage.
The only issue they have, the only issue they think they have is on abortion. And now all I say is the states are handling it.
The former president accusing Democrats of trying to distract from the economy and immigration, both consistently the most important issue for voters, with polls showing Americans prefer Mr. Trump to President Biden by about 20 points on the economy, 30 points on the border. Even though Mr. Trump opposes the Arizona abortion ban and a national ban, he's also taking credit for the overturning of Roe versus Wade, a decision which paved the way for very restrictive, broadly unpopular abortion limits. He and other Republicans now trying to thread the needle, including Arizona's Kari Lake.
A full ban on abortion is not where the people are. The issue is less about banning abortion and more about saving babies.
For the ban's opponents in Arizona, anger turning to action. You say you're ready to do whatever it takes to get the ban repealed, but how?
I immediately called for the repeal of this ban, and I'm going to continue to do that. I think a lot of Republicans are seeing that this is going to hurt them in the election.
And state lawmakers could pass a repeal as early as next week before the ban's set to go into effect later this spring. Back to you.
Hallie Jackson, thank you. The first criminal trial of a former president is set to begin on Monday. The case centers around a hush money payment allegedly arranged by Donald Trump to adult film star Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. But how did we get here? NBC News national correspondent Yasmin Vasugian breaks down what you need to remember.
The Trump hush money case is the first of 4 criminal cases to move to trial. Former President Donald Trump was charged with 34 counts of falsifying records in the first degree. But Trump is not the only one involved. Michael Cohen will likely be the star witness in the hush money case. He was Donald Trump's lawyer and fixer. And on August 21st, 2018, he pled guilty to 8 counts in Manhattan federal court. And Cohen alleged in a court of law, Donald Trump directed him to make illegal payments to influence the 2016 election, which Trump denies.
I did it at the direction of and for the benefit of Donald J. Trump.
Cohen was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Cohen alleges he orchestrated payoffs to 2 women who said they had affairs with Donald Trump, including Stormy Daniels. He says he sought reimbursement from Trump and even recorded one of their conversations about it. The FBI seized that tape during a raid on Cohen's residence and office. Cohen's attorney released it to the media. Adult film actress Stormy Daniels, also known as Stephanie Clifford, says she met Donald Trump in 2006 at a celebrity golf tournament when he was the host of The Apprentice.
Who loves The Apprentice?
Stormy says they had sex that night, and he offered to cast her in The Apprentice, which Trump denies. In 2011, the story leaked. Stormy says she gave an interview to a tabloid magazine for $15,000. It remained unpublished until 2018. But 2 years earlier, when Donald Trump was running for president, a tape from Access Hollywood,
"We're ready, let's go,"
leaked, which prosecutors say caused panic within the Trump campaign. 2 weeks later, Stormy Daniels was paid $130,000 by Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen. Karen McDougal is an ex-Playboy model and says she had an affair with Donald Trump. They allegedly met in 2006 at the Playboy Mansion, and she says they dated for nearly a year. Donald Trump denies they had a relationship. In 2016, when Donald Trump received the Republican nomination, McDougal's story leaked. AMI, the owner of the National Enquirer, offered her $150,000.
They wanted to squash the story.
Michael Cohen says he orchestrated the deal for AMI to buy McDougal's story, but never publish it, to help Trump in the 2016 election. Allegations Trump denies. Alan Weisselberg was the Trump Organization's chief financial officer. He was mentioned several times in Michael Cohen's recording as being a part of the hush money plot.
And I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up.
In July of 2021, Alan Weisselberg and the Trump Corporation were indicted for scheming to defraud tax authorities at the federal, state, and local level. He was sentenced to 5 months in prison and agreed to plead guilty and be a witness against the Trump Organization.
They're looking to squeeze him again, still to possibly get to Donald Trump.
On March 4th, 2024, Alan Weisselberg pled guilty to perjury and lying under oath in the Trump civil fraud case, a deal that sends him back to prison but does not require him to testify in the hush money case. He's not been charged in that case. He's currently serving 5 months in prison. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg and his team are the prosecutors in the trial. Bragg is a Harvard-educated Democrat and former Assistant Attorney General of New York. On December 6, 2022, DA Bragg secured the conviction of the Trump Corporation and the Payroll Corporation for conspiracy, criminal tax fraud, and falsifying business records.
The focus in the last 24 hours has been almost exclusively on Trump.
Then on March 30th, 2023, Donald Trump was indicted by DA Alvin Bragg in a Manhattan court. Days later, he was arraigned.
Our thanks to Yasmin Vasugian for that report. Jury selection in the hush money trial is set to begin Monday. We want to turn now to Israel, where staff members at the U.S. Embassy have been issued a travel warning as officials prepare for a potential attack from Iran. This comes after 7 members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard were killed in an airstrike on the embassy in Syria. NBC News correspondent Hala Garani is in Tel Aviv with the latest.
Well, almost 2 weeks since that attack on the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus, we are still bracing for a possible response from Tehran. New warnings for Americans in Israel this morning. The State Department telling U.S. Embassy employees and their families to restrict their personal travel between 3 major cities, as Israel braces for a possible attack from Iran that has U.S. intelligence officials concerned. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also speaking out Thursday, saying in the midst of the war in Gaza, quote, his country was also prepared for scenarios involving challenges in other sectors. The fears of fallout coming after that attack on Iran's embassy compound in Damascus, widely attributed to Israel. Iran's supreme leader saying this week an attack on his country's diplomatic missions is comparable to an assault on Iran itself. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said, the wicked regime made a mistake in this case. It must be punished, and it will be punished. The U.S. has been signaling its support to Israel despite recent criticism of the war in Gaza. A top American general traveling there as concern rises of a wider conflict involving Iran and its proxies. In the U.S., intelligence agencies are keeping a close eye on whether developments in the Middle East could be cause for worry domestically.
Our most immediate concern has been that individuals or small groups will draw some kind of twisted inspiration from the events in the Middle East to carry out attacks here at home.
While back in Israel, the defense minister has warned of, quote, an appropriate response if Iran attacks Israeli territory. The UK Foreign Secretary called his Iranian counterpart, urging restraint as the entire region remains on edge.
Hala Garani, thank you so much. More rain for the Northeast this morning while the West Coast braces for their next storm. Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us now with your Morning News Now weather. Hey, Angie.
Hey there, Vicki. You are exactly right. We've got the rain across parts of the Northeast and stretching out towards the Great Lakes. This is from that same system that's been wreaking havoc across the country over the past couple of days. We saw tornadoes from it. We, of course, have seen ample amounts of rain, and we're going to continue dealing with the rain across this region for the rest of today. We'll slowly start to see that system working out, and improvements will be seen here as we get closer to the end of your weekend. One thing to note, though, on top of the heavy rain, we're also going to see the potential for some melting snow. This is why we're watching for the flooding potential, specifically in parts of northern New England here as we get through the day today and potentially into tomorrow. Rainfall totals, not all that impressive, but again, with that melting snow could be problematic. The wind, something that a lot of folks noticed probably yesterday, and you're going to continue to notice that today. We've got 36 million people under these wind alerts right now, wind advisories specifically across parts of the Great Lakes, the Appalachians, and the Northeast. And notice why. Wind gusts 40, 45 miles per hour. In New York, we're expecting peak wind gusts close to 50 miles per hour through the day today. So those gusty conditions are here to stay for one more day. Then the system will start to kick out of here, and we'll be looking at some nicer conditions on the backside of that. We actually will be dealing with the system working into parts of Canada. And by the time we get into Sunday, this is when the real improvement happens for most of us. We'll see some lingering showers across New England, but most folks from the Great Lakes down to the Mid-Atlantic will see some nicer conditions, and it'll be fairly mild too. Big picture look for your Saturday. Nice conditions for the middle of the country, especially. It'll feel like summer in some of these spots. We've got the Central Plains tapping into temperatures into the 80s and 90s. We'll see the West Coast, though, have that next storm system that works on shore today and into tomorrow, and that's when we'll be watching, of course, for some additional snow. Big picture look, Boston Marathon, though,
wow,
Vicki.
yeah.
Looks great.
Good.
Temperatures into the 60s by 3 p.m. and plenty of sunshine.
Oh, that's perfect running weather. Not that I would know firsthand as a non-runner, but so I hear.
So I hear as well.
All right, thank you, Angie Lassman. Appreciate it. Coming up, red flag at the border. A man on the terror watch list was able to cross the southern border last year. What we're now learning about the incident and how he managed to get through. That's next.
We're back now with new details about a potential terror threat in the U.S. Officials say a member of an Afghan terror organization is now in custody after crossing over the border illegally in California and spending almost a year in the country. According to exclusive NBC News reporting, this comes after he was apprehended, then later released on bond by Border Patrol agents last year. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley has more.
We're learning more information about an Afghan man who crossed the U.S. southern border whose name appears on the terror watch list. A lot of this story is teaching us about how difficult it can be for Customs and Border Protection to vet who's coming across the border and what they can do to correct any misgivings in their information afterwards. Here, take a look.
An alarming development in the border crisis. Among the record number of migrants crossing the southern border was a member of an Afghan terror organization who was released into the U.S. by border agents, according to U.S. officials. 48-year-old Mohammed Harwan illegally crossed into California in March of last year. His name is on a U.S. terror watch list, identifying him as a member of HIG, a terror group that's killed Americans in Afghanistan. Border agents suspected he was on the watch list at the time of his apprehension, but lacked corroborating information, according to U.S. officials. CBP released him without contacting the FBI or Immigration and Customs Enforcement, those officials told us. Harwan was allowed to apply for work authorization and board planes in the U.S., according to those officials. After almost a year, ICE arrested him here in San Antonio. But when he went to court, U.S. officials tell us, ICE officials withheld classified information about his terrorism ties. A judge ordered him released on $12,000 bond, which he posted and was freed last month. Harwan's case appears to be just one of at least 3 incidents in the past 2 years involving suspected terrorists being released by Customs and Border Protection, according to the DHS Inspector General and Congress. It comes as President Biden faces fierce criticism of his handling of the border crisis, including from former President Trump.
Many terrorists, many drug dealers at the
highest level. They're all coming into our country.
The percentage of people on the terror watch list apprehended at U.S. borders is a small fraction of all migrants encountered. 0.02% under President Biden, 0.05% during the Trump administration.
Any terrorist or terrorist-linked individual trying to come into this country is unacceptable.
We pressed a former top ICE official in the Biden administration about how a member of a terror group could be released into the U.S. by DHS.
This is very, very rare. There's a large capacity and capability for both Border Patrol, ICE, federal law enforcement, and the interagency to identify, vet these individuals as they come to the border.
But there are fears about tens of thousands of migrants now evading agents as they cross the southern border. The Border Patrol chief recently calling it a national security threat. And the FBI director warning about smugglers with ties to ISIS.
There is a particular network that has, where some of the overseas facilitators of the smuggling network have ISIS ties that we're very concerned about.
The Department of Homeland Security says they can't comment on ongoing matters, but they are taking all necessary steps to ensure public safety. They say if someone has entered the country and is later found to be associated with a potential national security concern, they will, quote, take appropriate action.
All right, Julia, thank you.
Well, it's been more than 2 months since social media company executives testified on Capitol Hill about child exploitation.
Facing pressure, Meta, the parent company of Instagram and Facebook, has unveiled new features. They're aimed at preventing the sexual extortion of young users. Our own Savannah Sellers got an exclusive look at how it all works.
Hey friends, hey Joe, hey Vicky, thanks for being in early and filling in for me while I'm out on assignment. So you probably remember that all the CEOs of all the major social media companies were here on Capitol Hill just a couple months ago testifying specifically about sexual exploitation of minors on their platforms. Well, now Meta says they've been working on tools to protect children for quite some time, and they gave us an exclusive look. After mounting criticism that platforms aren't doing enough to protect young users from sexual exploitation, Meta announcing it's testing new tools for Instagram to prevent sextortion or coercing someone into sharing an intimate photo, then blackmailing them to keep it private. Antigone Davis is Meta's global head of safety.
We will be using technology and signals to identify potentially suspicious sextortion accounts and try to prevent them from messaging with minors. We're focused on intimate images.
She gave us an exclusive look at how it would work. If a user receives a nude image, it would be blurred at first. They'll also get this message: don't feel pressured to respond. The sender will be prompted to reconsider and given an option to unsend. This tool automatically turned on for users under 18. They'll also direct users to a service called Take It Down, which helps minors remove intimate images of themselves online. The announcement comes after this stunning moment with Mark Zuckerberg on Capitol Hill.
The whole thing is a dog and pony show.
Mary Rohde was there. She says just hours after her son Riley was a victim of sexploitation on Facebook, he took his own life.
I think it's a PR stunt all around to make parents think that their kids are safe on Meta. Overall, none of this is a tool that would have saved Riley or the next child.
Why should parents believe that you care more about their child than Meta's bottom line?
Well, I guess what I would want parents to know is that I'm a parent. We care deeply about providing a safe, age-appropriate, positive experience. I also want them to know, even if they have lingering doubts, is that it's not in our business interest for teens or anybody else to have an unsafe experience on our platform.
Even if in your business interest is to have more users?
Yeah, a bad experience will make people leave our platform.
The tool isn't available to users yet, but Meta says they're working towards that. So as you just heard, their parents might be wondering, these are not available quite yet. Testing is going to begin for some users in the next few weeks, and then Meta is saying that they hope to roll this out globally in the next few months. Joe, Vicki, back to you.
All right, Savannah, thank you so much. Coming up, allegations of fraud on a massive scale.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the charges facing the former interpreter for baseball star Shohei Ohtani. He stands accused of stealing more than $16 million. That's next.
We're back now with the latest on the investigation into Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter. Federal authorities have charged Ippei Mizuhara. He's charged with bank fraud, alleging he stole $16 million from MLB's biggest star to pay for thousands of illegal gambling bets, leading to more than $40 million worth of losses. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz is in L.A. with the latest on all of it. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, this is a staggering amount of money we're talking about. According to federal prosecutors, Ippei Mitsuhara acted as Ohtani's de facto manager and was able to steal millions from one of Ohtani's bank accounts to feed what they call his insatiable appetite for sports betting. And they say there's no evidence baseball's biggest star was aware of any of it.
Mr. Ohtani is considered a victim in this case.
Authorities are calling it fraud on a massive scale. Ippei Mitsuhara, the former interpreter and confidant for Shohei Ohtani, accused of stealing $16 million from the baseball superstar, nearly 4 times the amount initially reported, in order to pay for mounting illegal sports bets.
Mr. Mitsuhara used and abused that position of trust in order to take advantage of Mr. Ohtani.
Federal prosecutors say Mitsuhara used a bank account he had helped Ohtani set up when Ohtani first moved to the U.S. Authorities say the translator then impersonated Ohtani to convince banks to approve wire transfers.
Mitsuhara spoke with bank employees, lied to them about being Mr. Ohtani.
According to the criminal complaint, from December 2021 until January 2024, Mitsuhara placed 19,000 bets, averaging 25 a day, with an illegal bookmaker. The wagers, which were never made on baseball, ranged from $10,000 to $160,000, with Ippei racking up more than $40 million in losses.
But occasionally he would win. That money did not go to any account owned by Mr. Ohtani. That money would go to an account that was personally owned by Mr. Mitsuhara.
The stunning allegations stem from an ongoing federal investigation into an illegal gambling operation where Ohtani's name surfaced. The Dodgers star recently told reporters through a new translator that he was duped by his friend.
I'm very saddened and shocked that someone who I'm trusted has done this.
Text messages obtained by prosecutors show Mitsuhara messaging with a bookie 3 weeks ago, right after the story first broke. Referring to Ohtani, the bookmaker says, "Obviously you didn't steal from him," to which Mitsuhara responds, "Technically, I did steal from him. It's all over for me." Now, neither Ohtani, the Dodgers, or Mitsuhara have commented on the federal charges. Prosecutors say Mitsuhara is expected to turn himself in today. He'll appear in federal court later this afternoon here in Los Angeles. And if convicted, he could face up to 30 years in prison. Joe?
All right, Liz Kreutz, thank you so much. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos for more on this one. So first of all, just looking at the complaint that was put out there, what stands out? What did we learn that made you go, huh, how about that?
If you go back to films like Goodfellas, the mobsters would get an umbrella, run out in the rain and go to a payphone, and all that information about criminal activity would just go into the ether, never to be found. What criminals just don't realize today is that when they send text messages, when they put anything in writing and send it over a phone, almost always federal investigators can get to it. And this criminal complaint, the breadth of the, I guess, for lack of a better word, stupidity of the criminal activity that allegedly was sent back and forth on text message. It's just breathtaking. I mean, criminals today make it a lot easier to convict them because they stick everything on their cell phone, maybe thinking if they delete the text message that it's gone forever, and it's not gone forever. This stuff can be found on both ends, and it apparently was. It's all there in the criminal complaint. It just doesn't look good for this defendant.
Such overwhelming evidence. All right, let's listen to a little bit more of what was said at that press conference. Danny, we'll talk on the other side.
We've obtained recordings of telephone calls in which Mitsuhara spoke with bank employees, lied to them about being Mr. Ohtani, gave personal biographical information for Mr. Ohtani in order to impersonate him, and thereby convinced the bank to approve large wire transfers of large amounts of money to the bookmakers.
So, Danny, this goes beyond the potential stealing and theft of funds from Ohtani, but now you have him impersonating Ohtani himself. What does that mean in terms of the criminal charges that he could face? Even as a first-time offender, it looks like he is looking at a lot of prison time if convicted.
So far, really all the government needs is bank fraud. I mean, they could supersede an indictment down the road and add more charges, but just think about this. The way the United States sentencing guidelines are set up is that whenever you have fraud or some kind of economic crime, there is a grid that you go to figure out your sentencing guidelines. And when you're talking about $16 million, you're getting way up there in the offense gravity score, and you're looking at many years as a recommended guideline sentence. Now, the guidelines are no longer mandatory. A judge can make decisions that are above or below the guidelines. But when you're talking about a loss of $16 million, that's going to put you in the stratosphere in sentencing guideline land, even if you are a first-time offender, which is a significant factor under the sentencing guidelines.
Yeah.
But it is not enough to drag that recommended guideline sentence down when the dollar amount is as high as this, if it's going to be $16 million. And by the way, it may end up being more.
Ohtani has managers, lawyers, accountants. How is it possible no one noticed this till now?
We have heard this story so many times, and every time I hear it, I want to call up my own bookkeeper and just double check things, because it's a tale that we're all familiar with. We're all here doing our jobs. We're not watching our finances every minute of every day. And when you start relying on third parties to do it, especially, by the way, we share the same language usually with the people that manage our affairs. This is someone who came to the country, does not speak the language, who not only relied on someone to handle some degree of economic affairs, but to handle the language barrier too. So as much as people can say, how did he get away with taking that much money? If I went to another country and relied on somebody else to handle all my affairs in a different language, they could probably get the same amount out of me, and I would have no idea.
All right. Danny Savalos, good points. Thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much, Danny. We want to turn now to some new revelations about the COVID-19 vaccine. A CDC report released yesterday found that there is no evidence that the COVID vaccines cause fatal cardiac arrest or any other deadly heart problems in teens and young adults.
This comes following a series of unfounded theories from anti-vaccination groups blaming the shots for fatal heart problems in young athletes.
Joining us now for more on this is NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Azar, good morning to you. So take us through this latest CDC report and these findings. It's pretty dramatic and serious.
Yeah, and as you guys said, the CDC specifically carried out this study sort of in the face of all of this misinformation and very sort of, public, examples of how the COVID vaccine could be linked to this idea of sudden cardiac death in young people. And so they specifically looked at a community or area in Oregon. They looked at 1,300 death certificates, and these are people who died of either a cardiac condition or an unknown cause, and they were between the ages of 16 and 30. 40 of the people who died had received the vaccine. 3 of them within the first 100 days after receiving the vaccine. And that was kind of critical to them, because that's the time period that you think if something bad is going to happen, especially something like sudden cardiac death, that's going to happen in that first couple of months. And what they found that 2 of the people who died had died of chronic illnesses, and 1 person died of an unknown cause. Obviously not enough to draw any conclusions that it was related to the vaccine. And just for reference, roughly 30 people in that cohort had died of COVID itself, not related to the vaccine.
So, Dr. Azar, I'm reminded we know the vaccines were linked to that small risk of myocarditis, which got so much attention a few years ago. So remind us, what can you tell us about that, and what should people take away from these findings when it comes to the safety of the COVID vaccine?
Right. And so this is an example of where the CDC definitely picked up on what's called a signal. And that is that there was a concern that was founded that the mRNA vaccine, particularly in young adults and particularly in male young adults, was linked to a slightly higher risk of something called myocarditis, which is inflammation of the heart muscle. And in the vast majority of cases, these individuals did quite well and recovered fully. And there have been numerous studies over the last several years, guys, that have looked at the incidence of myocarditis in the general population as well as related to COVID infection. And clearly vaccine-associated myocarditis is the least serious, least concerning, and least in number compared to all of the other events that would happen, normally and related to other viruses, not just COVID.
All right, really good information. Dr. Natalie Azar, thank you so much, Dr. Natalie. And coming up, tax day is almost upon us.
Yeah, the tips you need to know if you still have not filed your returns. That's next. Welcome back. In case you didn't know, the deadline to file your tax returns is fast approaching.
Yeah, you have until this coming Monday to file your federal taxes or to request an extension with the IRS. 90 million households, they've already filed their returns. Millions more plan to do that this weekend.
For more on how to better prepare your taxes if you have not started yet, we're joined by NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung. All right, so the deadline.
I did mine already, by the way.
You did yours?
I
did mine.
My husband did ours.
You did, yeah. Well, as long as someone does it. Oh, for those who haven't started yet, what are some of the things you should know?
Well, you're running out of time because the deadline is on Monday. So again, April 15th is the deadline. But of course, you can also file for an extension. Now, I want to emphasize that's for federal taxes. So state filings will be different in a number of states. You actually have a little bit longer than that. So just double check on your state filings. And again, if you do owe taxes, there's no wiggle room on that. That's going to be due on Monday. So just make sure you get ahead of that this weekend.
Okay, Brian, let's talk about the different ways people can file, because the IRS actually has like a new pilot program for people in some states, too.
There's a pilot program. So for some states, you actually will be able to use their own software to file federally for free. And they actually have some partnerships with some states that you can file as well. That's a pilot, so you have to be eligible. You have to be invited. So if you're not invited to that, unfortunately not available to you. But for those that are making less than $79,000 a year, there is the IRS free file option that has been there for a few years, again, for those that are lower income. And then lastly, I want to point out that if you are looking for a tax expert over the weekend, a lot of services will be offering those services over the weekend and even on extended hours. So you can get those last minute filings done.
You know, an accountant this weekend.
Yeah.
We'll not be hearing from them very much. So how, obviously the goal is you want to get money back. How do you maximize the deductions and the tax breaks, even at the last minute like this?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are a number of ways that you can maximize your deductions. First off, you want to take a look at any sort of side hustle. So if you do make more than $400 on the side, you will have to report that. But there are plenty of ways to deduct from those filings, because you can say, for example, if you bought a desk at home, you're working from home for that side hustle, well, that could be a business expense that you could write down. Then also just consider consulting experts if you do have to file these types of more complicated things, because you don't want to get in trouble with the IRS. You want to make sure that you're doing it right. So some maybe the expanded software could help you do that, or again, you can maybe go consult a tax expert.
Brian, walk us through some of the things people have to remember, because I think you have to declare if you've made like more than $400. If you're selling things on a secondhand website, or you know you're driving a little bit here and there for a ride share, remind folks about that.
Yeah, so again, those side hustles, if it's more than $400, you will have to report that. But broadly speaking, when it comes to filing your taxes this season, you want to take a note of all the big major life events. So did you get married? Did you have a kid? Did you have to put interest expenses aside for certain types of savings? So these are all things that you're going to want to note. Charitable donations as well, loan and mortgage interest. So just take notes of all of those things as you're filing your taxes this weekend. Again, got to get it done by Monday.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Welcome back. It is Friday. Thank goodness. That means it's time for your weekly Can't Miss List.
That is right. We are going to talk about all the movies and shows you need to be seeing this weekend. And joining us now is television host and pop culture expert Andrew Freund.
Andrew, good to have you with us.
Hey,
all right, so we're going to start off with something called Housekeeping for Beginners, and it's a foreign film that's already had a limited release. Tell us about this.
Yeah, first of all, shout out to my producer, Chris, for finding this film, because I didn't even know it existed, so thank you, Chris. But it's set in northern Macedonia, and it's an LGBTQ drama about a woman who is tasked to raise her partner's children. Now, the woman... her girlfriend is dying, so she's like, I need you to raise my kids. And her partner really isn't, you know, one for raising children. So really, it's a story about families come in all shapes and sizes. It's a story about love. And it's really a story about, you know, especially in LGBTQ communities where you're disenfranchised, about becoming a family, even if it's not traditional.
The images look really interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this upcoming Guy Ritchie film. I want to read the title, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but a really interesting connection there with the cast members and the people who were portrayed in the film, right?
Yes, so I actually just got back from London interviewing the cast, and one of the guys in the film is Cary Elwes, always from The Princess Bride.
Ah, right.
But he plays the man that recruited his grandfather in a secret covert operation. So this is based on a true story. That Winston Churchill hired a band of people to go and defeat the Nazis because the U-boats were shooting down supplies to Great Britain. So it really follows Henry Cavill and his band of covert operations. I love this film so much. Yeah, I loved it.
Defeat the Nazis, Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie, he isn't sleeping these days because he's got so much content out there right now. All right, let's go from a real world to a film, a real war to a film based on a fictional one, Civil War, and I've been hearing a lot of buzz about this.
Yes, we spoke about this yesterday. Civil War, you know, is based on what if a real civil war came here in present day? And it's like we were saying yesterday, it's a love letter to journalists. Kirsten Dunst plays a war journalist, and they're tasked with getting to the White House before insurgents get there. So I will say that the film is very loud. So just make sure when you go there, it's going to be loud. But I recommend, if you can, seeing it in IMAX. Very provocative, very compelling. I really, really loved it.
Okay, and Kirsten Dunst is great. There's a new biopic, too, about one of our founding fathers, keeping it on an American theme here. Michael Douglas plays Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see Michael Douglas play Ben Franklin. Yeah, so this is a 8-episode series coming to Apple, and it really kind of humanizes Franklin. Like, it's not just, you know, the bifocal guy with the wig. And we follow his mission to France. So we really get to see a different side of Ben Franklin. Michael Douglas, obviously, I mean, he's phenomenal. Period costumes, great scenery, as we can see here. Really, really fantastic.
Prime has a new series out. It's based on the popular video game franchise Fallout.
Yeah.
What should we know? Will the video game lovers like this?
Yes, another post-apocalyptic Marvel. And it's interesting. So basically, guys, what if we had a nuclear war and everyone went down into these bunkers, okay?
My worst nightmare.
But what if they were in these bunkers for 200 years?
Okay, it's getting worse.
And then you come out of the bunker and you want to see what is going on the planet. Guess what? There's a lot going on the planet, and it's not so good. Bing, bang, boom, that's the show.
Fallout, there you have it. All right, for folks missing Curb Your Enthusiasm, critics say that there's a British import for Peacock?
Yeah, so there's a British show called Hapless, which is kind of like the character plays a journalist from the Jewish Inquirer. Okay. And it follows his daily hijinks and everything. You know, he's very Larry David-esque, and he's very petty, and we get to basically follow his life. And then at the end of each episode, he goes to see which of his articles are posted, and really, like, none of them get posted. It's like the bar mitzvah of twins gets posted, but like nothing that he writes gets posted.
All right, Andrew, thank you so much. We'll check that out. All right, that's gonna do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now. Stay with us. Thank you. And by the way,
happy birthday, Jennifer!
Birthday. Yes.
Our senior producer, Jennifer Wiggins-White. It is her birthday today. We love her. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Jennifer. Hope all your wishes come true.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.